Welcome, everybody, to another edition of He Said, She Said with Scott and Nicole. I'm obviously Scott, and
I'm obviously Nicole.
there we go. Hopefully, that wasn't hard to figure out for all of you out there. This show is being brought to you by our friends at ATC Partners, Addiction Training Center, and of course, our friends at Legacy Healing Center. And we'll tell you more about them as we go out throughout the show. But we'd like to give them a shout out that they make it possible for us to do this. And Nicole, how are you? It's like 2 weeks seems like forever.
I know, right? I think we need to do like a little check-in between these weeks.
Well, we can do what I like to affectionately call pop-ups, where anytime,
Huh.
any place, we just might happen to pop up and do a 10-minute show.
I think that's cool.
I think that's a good idea. I think we should do that because we're both very busy people. I mean, we got Emma's production joining in. Emma saying, "Hey, great to see you guys." Thank you, Emma.
Thank you, Emma. Good to see you too.
It's good to see everybody out there, and thanks. I see people joining in already. That's great. Yeah, we have to keep people a little bit more informed than just every other week. So we'll find a way to do that for you, folks, and keep everything going. Sandy saying hi. That's mom.
Hi, Mom.
Mom joining in, and usually once she texts in, about 30 seconds later, Karen pipes in and says hi. So
Every time after the podcast, I get a text message from Karen saying, "You guys did so great." And I said, "Oh, Karen."
That's so good. Karen, of course, is the heart and soul and my business partner and best friend for years at Addiction Training Center. And like I said, somewhere towards the middle of the show, we'll take a few minutes to talk about it, addiction and helping people and doing all that. But right now, I'm going to share. I've been on a whirlwind. Didn't I tell you? 30 seconds later, there's Karen. Hello, guys.
There she is.
I've been on a whirlwind this past weekend. My son was visiting me here in Florida. The weekend before that, I was in Connecticut, and we celebrated my daughter's wedding. And all three of my kids were there, Hillary, Julian, and Cordelia. And we got to all be together for the first time in a very, very long time. And everybody's doing good. It's just been a whirlwind, and everybody's all excited. But I got to tell you what I am mostly right now. I'm really tired.
Yeah, I bet. And then you have a full week ahead of you. And then your daughter's coming again this weekend.
Yes, because after the reception we had up in Connecticut, because they had already gotten married, but they did a reception for the family to get together, which was fine. I didn't have to sit through a church service. I'm good with that always. But they're in Disney right now, doing their honeymoon in Disney.
Oh,
which is great, right?
I love that.
I mean, I think Disney's a good honeymoon place.
Isn't it supposed to be the happiest place on earth?
That's what they say.
That's what they
Unless
say.
you bring your children, and then it becomes
Unless
the most
you bring
miserable
your
place.
kids. Oh, I hear that all the time, and my kids keep begging me to go, and I just say next year.
Oh, wait a minute. All right, how old are your kids?
Still too young. I don't want to spend all that money now.
How old are your kids?
4 and 6.
4 and 6. Perfect age for Disney. Take them. I'm lying, of course.
Too young.
No, they are
I
too
want
young.
them to remember. If I'm going to spend all this money and make it magical, I want them to have the memory of it.
Yeah. Well, listen, to a 4-year-old, Mickey Mouse is a 6-foot freaking rat. I mean, it's terrifying to a 4-year-old. No, I believe I see people show up with babies. They have strollers at Disney, but baby, what are you gonna do? What's a baby gonna do?
The baby doesn't want to be there.
No, and it hasn't earned the right. They haven't worked. They haven't earned any money. They didn't pay for their tickets. They shouldn't be there.
No, and then they're cranky, and then the parents. Listen, parents. It's a lot. It's funny because on Facebook, people like to put on a good show, and I have a lot of mom friends that when they go to Disney, they take these cute pictures and they post them, and then I hear the backstory about how miserable and hot it was, and the kids were cranky and they were crying, and I was like, well, on Facebook, you looked magical.
Yes,
it's very funny.
But no, Disney for children. But young adults at Disney, time of your life.
Yeah.
even older adults. But it's really, I know it's a kid thing, but it's not a kid thing. Stacy, happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you too, Stacy.
Hey,
Uh,
Stace.
Emma Pitcher is saying, hey, I love you, Nicole.
I love you,
Uh,
Emma.
Emma, I'm not hurt by that at all. Don't worry about it. I'm used to being passed over. Don't worry about it. Hey, listen, if I looked at the picture you next to me, I'd definitely be talking to you first. Don't worry about it.
Oh, stop it. Everybody loved you 2 weeks ago and agreed with your Skechers, which I hope you do not have on right now.
Actually, I am wearing socks. I am not wearing shoes at all.
Me either.
At all, because I ordered some Sketcher slippers and they're not here yet.
No, you didn't. No,
No,
you
I didn't. I didn't. But I did wear the Skechers when I was up in Connecticut because they were comfortable to walk around in.
You wore them to the wedding?
Well, it wasn't a wedding, it was a reception. So yes.
Oh.
Yes, I was rock and rolled out. They told me it was an outdoor party to celebrate. When I got there, everybody was dressed up for wedding pictures. And here I am. I'm wearing my Skechers, my jeans, my Led Zeppelin t-shirt, and like a plaid shirt that was looks like Kurt Cobain wore it.
Oh my God.
And that's how I was dressed, but everybody thought I was like the coolest dad there. So
I want to see those pictures.
Oh, thank you, Emma. Sorry, Scott. We love you too. LOL. Wait a minute. Don't tell me you love me, then say LOL. Wait a minute.
She made a joke. She made a joke about it.
Yes, I love you. LOL. Yeah, next time that you're in a romantic moment with your wife or your husband, say to him, I love you. LOL. See how well it goes over. No, it's all cool. It's all cool.
Oh.
I love me. That's all that matters.
There we go. And that kind of relates to our
It
topic
does.
of the night.
It does. And, I had asked you what topic you thought. And actually, we were both kind of on the same page because had been thinking about this earlier in the week. And it's about self-worth. Everybody talks about you got to love yourself. And loving yourself is a whole kind of different thing. But to have self-worth where you actually like who you are and you actually accept yourself and do all of that. Because I love a lot of people that I don't like. You know what I mean? I try to love everybody, but I don't like everybody. And I don't value everybody as much. But finding that value in yourself, especially if you're trying to change your life and enter into recovery, that's huge, isn't it, Nicole?
It's huge. When I first came into recovery, I hated myself. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. And I didn't think that I was worthy of anything. The biggest thing I didn't think I was worthy of was love. So for the past 10 years, I've worked my ass off to not only fall in love with myself, but to find that self-worth. And it's been a journey and a painful one at times, but so worth it. So worth it.
Now, I got to ask, I mean, again, if we go, you and I are just kind of getting to know each other a little bit too in some areas, and I'm pretty much an open book, and I think you are too. But that lack of self-worth, can you trace that back? Is that part of your childhood as well?
Yes. So when I first got into recovery, I had no idea why I didn't love myself. I had no idea why I settled for the things that I did, or I did the things I did. And, thank God for recovery, because I did a lot of work on myself, and I found out that all of it stems from my childhood. I went back, and not saying that I had the worst childhood, but there's trauma in my childhood. And each moment that a traumatic situation happened, my brain internalized it, and my perception at the time was, I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. I'm not worthy. I'm nothing. And that one thought of I'm nothing formed at the age of 6, and it stayed with me my entire life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, when you have that kind of, let me acknowledge Nicole's joining us. Hi, Nicole. Thanks for joining us. Thank you all for being here. Please, if you have any questions or you comments about what we're talking about, please share with us.
Yes.
But that's interesting that you carried that in, that kind of hollow Is that a good description? That hollow feeling, like I'm
Yeah.
not real, almost like I'm not real.
Yeah. And it was
It,
always like, I always wanted to know, because you hear this a lot in recovery. I'm not the only one that says it, but addicts always say like I was a chameleon. I always tried to fit in, and I always wanted to be a part of, and that was my story. And I had no idea that the reason why I wanted to be a part of so bad was because I thought I was nothing. So
yeah.
when I hung out with a group of people that liked me, it made me feel a little bit more like something, even though deep down I still, no matter what I did, had that gut feeling of just I'm not worthy, I'm nothing.
And when people have those feelings, and I speak from my own experience of having a similar type feeling when I was younger, that I wasn't good enough and that I didn't really matter. And there were some unhealthy things that happened in my family as a child, but also a lot of it was just surrounded around other people dealing with their addictions and their issues. And
Yeah.
so as a child, you kind of get lost in that.
Well,
And
because
so
their
I
perception is different
yeah,
as a child. A child's brain can't comprehend what we can today as an adult.
exactly. Exactly. In some ways, as a child, we're almost more aware of what we're really feeling, but we can't interpret or do anything with that. Now we get older and we know how to reason and
Yeah.
interpret things, but we no longer are as connected to our emotions as we were as a child because we've learned to cover them up and to make believe or pretend or just kind of go along with things. But
Yeah.
yeah, a similar thing. And when alcohol and drugs obviously come along, for me it was really alcohol. It was like filling a void that I'd always had. Karen describes it as like having a hole in you. When the wind blows, it hurts. It blows right through you. So
Yeah.
anything I could do to fill that void, and the alcohol was a great way to fill that void. It gave me the courage that I thought I lacked. It gave me fulfillment. It gave me purpose. And it gave me a group of friends that, for lack of a better term, they were my friends, but they really weren't.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, so to find recovery, it was almost like a full discovery of self. It wasn't even about self-worth at first. It was first figuring out, who the hell am I? How am I even going to value myself if I don't know who I am? Does that sound accurate?
Yeah. Well, I had no idea who I was when I got into recovery, and everything that I knew came from a belief system of what I told myself or what I've learned from family members, my parents. So I had no idea who Nicole was. And I had to start from scratch. And I was having this conversation today actually with somebody, and she was telling me that she was digging into her childhood, and she was in a lot of pain. And my experience is anytime I'm in pain, if I put the footwork in to work through it instead of playing the victim, the other end of that pain always leads to joy. And I
Yeah.
always come out like better than I was when entering that pain. So, it's been a hell of a fucking journey and I'm still on it. That's the cool thing about recovery too, is that it never ends. And like, I'll address something that happened from my childhood. I'll work on it. I'll process it. And then boom, something else comes up. And I'm like, all right, what's going on here? And I get to work through it.
Well, as you resolve parts of your past, you gain new understandings about your present and your future of where you're going.
Mhm.
So it almost like, okay, now I've got to reevaluate this because now I'm looking at it with a different set of glasses. So we're constantly getting, I like to think of it as, we were we were Stevie Wondered for years. We couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
And now gradually we're getting prescriptions that get stronger and stronger, and we see more and more. But each time you see more, you've got to interpret more and think about, how does this fit into my life? And we grow. But that should be normal life anyway. Lynn is joining us and saying, hi, guys.
Hi, Lynn.
That's my friend Lynn. My friend Lynn. I do my show As We See It with Scott and Lynn on Tuesday nights. And, so check that out. But yeah, we're constantly growing and reinterpreting. Don't you feel like somehow we get like an edge up on regular people,
Normal people. I
nor
do.
normals, because they don't, it's almost like if they don't know how dark things get, so they don't appreciate the light in the same way that we do, I guess.
Yeah. And they don't I've said this since from day one when I entered recovery, is I feel like everybody, addict or not, should live by the spiritual principles of the 12 steps,
Yeah.
you know, and everybody, addict or not, has a fourth step in their life, and if people did it and did the work, I just think this world would be a much happier fucking place.
I agree. Because for those of you who don't know, the fourth step is all about taking a personal moral inventory of yourself, not an immoral inventory. That's how most people just they look at it and they think, oh, everything bad I've ever. It doesn't say immoral; it says moral inventory. It's
Yeah.
about looking at yourself. I compare it to looking at a car that's not running properly, and you look underneath. Of course, not every piece is broken there, but there are broken pieces. And if we could replace those with good pieces, our lives get better and the car runs better and we do better. But if you're not willing to lift the hood, you're just going to run that thing into the ground, which is kind of what addiction does to us.
Yep.
Oh, Lynn saying, what is normal? Yeah, well, we're not sure. We're still trying to figure that out.
There isn't.
And Karen says everyone is recovering from something. I think that's a pretty accurate statement.
I agree, whether they know it or not. Some people are in such disillusion, but if they sat and did the work, they would have aha moments, without doubt.
Let's go with somebody who's got like the perfect story, the high school football star, married the cheerleader, went to college, got his CPA, works for H&R Block, has a house with a white picket, the whole 9 yards. But somewhere there's always these changes in your journey where you go from a child to an adult, where you've got to adopt new ideas that are your own and abandon the ideas that you had as a child. You have to, when you go into college, then you go into the workforce, you've got to create new ideas of your own and new behaviors of your own. So people are constantly having to reinvent themselves. And that's reinventing yourself is the core of what recovery is. It's about creating a new you for a new life that you want to have. So in a sense, yes, we all recover somehow because we all have to change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody stays the same as they were when they were 12 years old. Well, I know a few people, but they're not right in the head.
Some people do.
Some people do. But along this journey, what people don't understand, I don't know if everybody understands this, I hope they do, is that you're the one who's writing your story.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not happy with you, if you feel disenchanted with the story that you're in, the life that you're living, the only one who has any power to change that is you.
Absolutely.
So that's it's a big responsibility though, isn't it? Finally, for when you take away all of our vices, to say now it's up to you to be happy or not be happy, but it is on your shoulders. Isn't that like a huge responsibility?
Yeah, and it takes work. And entering recovery, I had no idea. I thought I'm going to make these meetings and I'm going to stop using drugs and everything is just going to be all right. And I put down the drugs and alcohol and I was still me. And I was like, oh boy, I don't like myself even more because now I have nothing to numb myself from the reality of who I became.
Yes.
So, it's a lot of work, but it's purposeful and it's meaningful, and it helped me fall in love with myself today.
It's and there's a joy in that journey.
Yeah.
Once you start to embrace that every time I do something, it's a new discovery. As opposed to, oh shit, I got to do more work. Oh shit, I got to do more change. Oh, this sucks. Instead of looking at it that way, we start to adopt the attitude like, what's next? What am I going to find out next? What am I going to discover about me, about the people in my life, about life itself? What's going to come next? And it is so freaking exciting. It's hard to quell that excitement that I get sometimes about,
Yeah.
Wow. Change is constant. Lynn is sharing. Yes, of course, change is constant. But I mean, you've gone through changes in this past 10 years. If you had to picture your life 10 years ago when you're first getting sober, would this be what you thought it would be? Is this where you thought you would be? Or
No,
could you not think about this even?
I couldn't even think about it. And when I came into recovery, I heard the saying beyond your wildest dreams. And when I was new in recovery, beyond my wildest dreams was an endless amount of crack, or heroin.
Yeah.
money falling from the sky. Like that was beyond my wildest dreams. And I don't know what the hell that was. And it's so much more than that. And then even in recovery, right? Like I got into recovery, I got into that relationship, I got married, I had the big beautiful house on the water, I had the white picket fence, I had the fancy bougie car, the money in the bank, and I thought I was set. I thought, okay, this is beyond my wildest dreams. But we talked about filling that void, and the truth is, the money I thought was beyond my wildest dreams, and I quickly found out that I wasn't even happy then. And my self-worth then still wasn't where it is today. So I had to change and find the courage to go through with getting that divorce and becoming who I truly am today. And the woman that sits here on this podcast today, like I would have never, ever imagined that this is who I would be 10 years later. I couldn't comprehend it.
Yeah, I mean, to actually put yourself out there for, I mean, in a sense, as we do these things, and as you know from being, um, dare I say, a TikTok influencer at this point,
Mm-hmm.
you put yourself out there for ridicule,
Yeah.
and that takes a lot of self-worth to be able to do that. You've got to believe in yourself enough to say, not everybody's going to like me, and if I'm going to make a video, if I got 100 people saying I love you, I'm going to get 10 people saying you're an idiot.
Yep.
But could you have done things like that before?
Absolutely not. I was so worried about what everybody else thought of me. And I kept things a secret because I was scared that if I told somebody the truth about me, that they wouldn't like me. I ran from every relationship I had because I was going to leave them first before they left me because I'm not good enough. And
Right.
I put on this image of who I was, and now I just don't give a crap. And a lot of people on TikTok, they tell me the reason why they follow me, besides the fact that my fiance is a very good looking man. Besides that part of it.
I'll go along with that. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, half of the people that follow me is for Anthony, which is okay, right? Because I have self-worth today, so I'll take it. But
And we do find reasons to get his shirt off every now and then.
oh, of course, babe, take your shirt off. We get more views. Come on. I mean, hello. But they'll say to me, Nicole, you're so authentic. You're so real. You say the shit that nobody else will say. And I couldn't even do that. Forget 10 years ago. I couldn't do what I do today 4 years ago. I had to pretend to be somebody who I wasn't. So, Kelly loves him. Kelly.
Kelly's agreeing that Ant is handsome.
Oh, she
Absolutely.
loves him. Hi, Kelly.
Thanks for being here, Kelly. That's all good. I mean, and that takes something, and just to have that kind of confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to get construed. It's not, confidence in yourself is not saying I'm better than anybody. It's not
ego.
saying that I am great or that I'm even done being who I am. I've just started. It's simply about saying, you know what, where I am is really okay. And where I'll be tomorrow, I'm looking forward to it. That's all that is. It's not about thinking we're better than other people or anything like that.
No.
I don't want people to think that. You don't do what you do because you're full of yourself. You do what you do because you're okay with yourself.
Yep.
Is that
And there's a big difference. I used to walk around with this really big ego. And the reason why I did is because I hated myself. So anytime today that, on TikTok, when they're trying to ridicule me, they'll say, oh, you think your shit doesn't stink, you're cocky. And I'm like, no, it's not cockiness. It's confidence. And I'm proud of it today because, like I said, I worked my ass off to fall in love with myself. And listen, I say this all the time too. There's 7 days in a week. And just because I fell in love with myself and I know my self-worth, that doesn't mean all 7 days out of the week are, yay, Nicole. Like I still have maybe 2 or 3 days where I just don't have that confidence and I have to kind of fake it till I make it, so, oh, Kelly.
Kelly loves you as well. Stacy says, yes, Nicole, that's why I love you. And our friend Matt is giving the guy answer to everything. Yo, which I think means he likes you too.
What's up, Matt? Well,
Thanks,
what about
Matt.
you, Scott? Scott, how many years do you have? How many years?
18 years in recovery this time. I
So,
had I had 13 and I relapsed.
and now,
And the relapse was a very long relapse. It was almost 10 years.
wow.
But I'm 18 years in recovery now. And but my real growth didn't start until about, well, no, I mean, I grew. I was growing and doing things. But the best part of my growth has happened over the last like 3 years.
Mhm.
And it's kind of rediscovering a new stage. I'm getting older. My kids don't need me as much as they used to. I'm living alone for the first time in like 38 years. Just me. I've got people that are my friends that I stand by. Not just casual friends, but real friends. Um, I do what I love every day for my work, and when I get home, I'm painting, I'm playing my guitar, I'm going out and seeing my friends play their music and stuff. I, I've had a lot of personal like change that's happened. There was always a part of me though throughout my self growth. There was one part that I never quite resolved, and that was I needed somebody else to complete me. That was the hardest thing for me to change, that I needed, whether it was somebody that I actually cared about, and thank God, you know, I loved my wife, and when that didn't work, and unfortunately, she lost her battle with addiction. And Therese, who I was together with for a very long time, I still love her with all my heart. She's my best friend in the world. But I counted on too much of that to complete who I was. And
Mhm.
whenever you do that, it's damaging to a relationship. So that wasn't working. And I had to figure that out. So one of the things about self-worth is it's a singular opportunity to change. If you
Yes,
have to count somebody else into your self-worth, you're missing something. Yeah.
absolutely.
So and then I know you went through the marriage where you had the husband, you had the money, you had the car, you probably had all the best Skechers in your closet. Um, rhinestone Skechers and all
Oh,
that. Uh,
no,
not a Sketcher in your neighborhood, I'm sure. Not in
yeah,
the
get
neighborhood.
your in the fucking site.
One guy
Yeah,
walked the dog with Skechers. We threw him out of the neighborhood. Nobody ever saw him again. Uh,
yeah,
but um, but I'm sure that at some point when the relationship ended, that's when you figured out it has to be all about me, or it's
yeah.
not about me at all, right?
Well, that's when the real, like I did, like you said, I did work on myself before that, and I grew, but my true potential and my self-worth kicked in after that relationship, and it started when I went to see the lawyer, and I sat my ex-husband down and I said, we need to get a divorce. That's where the self-worth started, because it was the first time in my entire life that I put me first. I put my happiness, not settling, right? Because recovery teaches me I don't have to settle for anything less than I deserve. And that was the first time in my entire life that I took a stand for Nicole. And from
Mm.
that point on, that's almost 4 years ago, it has been one hell of a journey. And, before entering the relationship with Anthony, I cut all men off and just solely stuck with the women. And I did a lot of exercises to fall in love with myself, like these positive affirmations that I would read to myself every morning for 6 months. And I remember in the beginning it was so uncomfortable to look at myself in the mirror and say, you are beautiful. And then after doing it for a while and other things, now I have no problem saying it. You're beautiful. Hey, girl.
Well, let's get a couple of people in here. Nicole says that's my Matt, Nicole.
Oh,
um,
Matt!
yeah. So her Matt, yeah, he needs to work on his vocabulary a little bit.
Matt!
Um, your little buddy, haha.
Oh,
And Teresa's with us. I was just talking about Therese, who is my best friend in the world, and I love her to death. And again, that was unfortunate that I was not able to be a complete person without her, which damaged the two of us being together. And I've had to learn a whole lot about that. That if I can't be whole without somebody, I'll never be whole with somebody.
yep.
And so that's interesting. Now, you just said something about looking in the mirror and stuff. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, Nicole.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people out there looking at you right now and saying, Well, that's bullshit because look at you. You're beautiful. You look in the mirror. How can you not like you? But you don't see what other people see when you look in the mirror, especially when you're in those dark places, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, our perception is not what everybody else sees. Somebody might look and say, "Oh my God, they look beautiful," but that's not what we see. When you're damaged on the inside, you see something totally different than what other people see. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. And the damage, like we spoke about in the beginning, the damage came from my perception of what I told myself as a kid. There was situations too that I talk about very freely about being molested multiple times. And each time that happened, I looked at myself like I was ugly because inside I felt ugly. I felt dirty. I felt unworthy. I felt taken advantage, embarrassed. All those feelings that were inside is what I saw when looking in the mirror, you
Wow.
know? Yeah. And it
Thank
wasn't
you.
until I worked on that.
That must have taken a long time to be able to say those kind of words out loud
Hmm.
and be okay with saying that. And
Yeah.
I congratulate you for that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there saying, "How can she say something like that out loud?"
Hmm.
It's the same way I could talk about, that yeah, there was some violence when I was a child and stuff, but what was really damaging to me was the violence that I perpetrated on my wife and my children. I was an abusive husband, abusive father. And I say that to people and they're like, you can't, no, don't say that. Especially guys get uncomfortable when I say that. I'm like, but if I don't say it, I'm going to be stuck in it for the rest of my life. And I don't want to be stuck in that anger and that person that I was. So yeah, I will talk about that.
Hmm.
I regret the things I did? Of course I do, but I can't live in guilt and shame about those things.
Yeah.
And because as long as I kept that a secret, it was eating at me. It
Yeah.
was
Well,
eating
what do
at
we
me.
say? You're only as sick as your secrets.
Yeah, which didn't make sense to me until much later. When people first told me that, I'm like, yeah, that sounds cute. Let's put
Yeah.
that right up there with
Okay.
one day at a time as a bunch of bullshit. All right.
Those stupid slogans.
Oh my God. I
Mhm.
still don't like the one. What is it? Think, think, think. You ever see that one?
That's an AA one.
That's an AA one. Yeah. Think, think, think. And like,
Yeah.
really? Somebody had to come up with that?
They did a great job thinking about that one.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been the very last one. They're like, I'm out of ideas. Just
That's
think, think. 3 words. Let's just give it to them. But who knows where we're going to find our mantras. Okay, Stacy sharing, skeletons in your closet will haunt you unless you can talk about them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being able to, for us to be able to talk about the dark parts of our life brings them to the light, and they lose power in light. They really do. They only strengthen in darkness and in secret.
Yeah.
So the more you talk about it and the more you share it with other people, it seems to have less power over you, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And then not only that, once you become aware and you're honest about it and you say it out loud, there's other people that are going to tell you, I've been there also. And this is what I did to change.
Right.
And then it's your choice.
And then there's the behind that where somebody will come up to you and say, I've been there, but I don't know what to do. And now we get to help somebody else with our stories.
Yep.
And that's how this whole thing works is we all help each other with our stories. And this should not be a recovery thing. This should not be an addict thing. This should be how we all do things in our neighborhoods, in our families, in our communities, in our workplaces. We should all treat each other like this and help each other through our own experiences and help each other to grow. Unfortunately, that's a pretty Susie cream cheese attitude right there.
Yeah, but it's true. That's why I said before, if everybody just lived in spiritual principles, this world would be a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. I think Gandhi said it best, be the change you want to see in the world.
There you go.
Everybody's like, well, what am I going to do to make the world better? You be better.
Yeah.
You be better. And your little piece of the world will change. And who knows, maybe the next guy does it, and then it's a bigger piece of the world changes. But it doesn't start by us saying the whole world's got to change for me to be happy.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that's what I used to sit and think when I had a scotch in my hand as my life was going by. If the whole world would change, I'd be a better person. Instead of thinking, if I'm a better person, my whole world will change.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Nicole is asking questions here. What if you don't have anyone to share your secrets with? How do you deal with them on your own? That's a tough one. Go ahead, Nicole.
So, if you take a look at your life, there should at least be one individual that you can trust in telling these secrets with. And if there's not, there's always therapy. You never have to deal with anything on your own. Especially nowadays, after COVID happened, you could find a therapist on Zoom. You know what I mean? There is always someone out there that you can dump your secrets to. In the beginning of my recovery, now I grew up Catholic, but I do not go to church, and obviously I curse like a sailor. Like, I'm not, religious guru. But in the beginning of my recovery, my sponsor said to me, if you don't feel comfortable right away with telling me your deepest, darkest secrets, go to confession at a church and just dump it out. And I didn't do that, but it made sense. Like, there is always somebody there to let it out to tell. So my suggestion would be a friend in your life that you wholeheartedly trust, or a therapist.
Absolutely. Now, I'm getting choked up here. Hillary is my daughter, my oldest daughter,
Hi, Hillary.
and she's saying therapy is amazing. And considering that she had to live through my alcoholism and my violence and my anger, and for her to even listen, uh, or for us to be together and to tell each other we love each other and to be is more than I could possibly ever hope for, and it's so incredible. But she is a great leader for the family. She's dealt with a lot with the death of her mother and all the things that went on, and she still finds ways to thrive. And she does it through therapy, through yoga, through taking care of her family, through her humor, and just her beautiful spirit. Hillary, I love you with all my heart. You're the best, babe. My mom is also mentioning there's a lot of different self-help groups out there too. When we're talking about AA and NA, there's all sorts of self-help groups for trauma, for PTSD, for abuse, for those kind of situations where possibly you were abused or something. So there's a lot of self-help groups out there too. And if you want to privately reach out to myself or Nicole, we can help you find stuff too as well.
Absolutely.
Reach out to us, message us on Facebook, and we'll help you out if you're looking for somebody to talk to. We can't be the therapist for everybody and do all of that, but we could definitely help you find direction. So Hillary says, hi, guys. And she says, thank you, Dad. I love you, Dad. Thank you, Hillary.
Oh.
Therese is saying, I thought I handled my demons after listening to Nicole. I think I need to do more work. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm glad. I'm glad that people can find things. This is so cool.
But you see, that's how this works. You see, we're literally living what we're talking about. By me divulging and being honest and talking about certain things, she had the aha moment of, hey, I could identify, so let me now go and work. Oh, I love this.
I do a show with Therese, and we do every other week, kind of like you and I do. On the off weeks when we're not on, I'm on with Therese, and we do a show called The X's. And because we were engaged, we were together for a lot of years, but we broke up because of there's broken pieces in our relationship, and we both had responsibilities, but I carry mine, and mine were, as I described, I wasn't giving my best to the relationship because I was taking too much from it for my own identity. And so we decided to save the friendship because that was the best part of who we were. And we've been able to be friends for the last year and a half. We've been separated. She is my best friend, my first person I think of when I want to tell somebody something, or when I hear something funny, or if I see something funny, I send her. And what we want to show is people can be friends with their exes. There's no reason you can't. If you're together with somebody for a significant period of time, not everything is broken, obviously. There are pieces that are broken and some are irreparable, but it doesn't mean the whole relationship was bad. But we tend to throw things away. It's a throwaway society. Things didn't work, so I'm throwing you away. We're trying to prove that that's not necessary. So, Teresa, I'm glad you're here. But anyway, this is all we're talking about, self-worth. And I guess what we're getting at, Nicole, is that you cannot have self-worth without looking at the truth about who you are and what you've been through.
Yeah.
Because if you keep that stuff, you can't ignore that stuff. There's a lot of people that come in recovery or get through a trauma and they want to forget that it ever happened and try to live. That doesn't work, does it?
No, it doesn't. A lot of people always ask me because I'm a digger. I'm gonna dig into childhood. I'm gonna dig into the why of everything. And somebody in recovery, when I moved here to Florida, I shared at a meeting, and they came up to me after and they said, I disagree with what you said. And I said, okay. And I said, well, why? Right? Like, which part of it did you disagree with? And he said that part, that you don't need to know why to everything, or go back into the past. That I believe you should just keep moving forward. And I said, okay, I'm glad that works for you. But anytime I throw something under the rug and I don't address it and I don't change it and I don't work on it, eventually I trip over that rug. So
Yes.
I have to dig into my why. And I want to know also, I had these attitudes and behaviors, and granted, a lot of them also came with my addiction. Once I picked up the drugs, I did things that, I can't imagine doing today, but some of them came from my childhood. And I wanted to know why, right? I wanted to know why I always seeked validation from men. And when I did the work on myself and I went to the why place, because I have abandonment issues because of my father. And when I get that aha moment, I could flip my perspective, and I could understand that my dad is an addict like us without a program. And and there's forgiveness that's available when I do that. There's understanding, there's awareness, and then there's the choice to change it and not believe that lie anymore.
I love that, Nicole, and I'm on board with you 1,000%. You have to know why. You have to look back. I mean, these are all pieces of luggage that are locked on us, and we're dragging it behind us, and they're not just going to go away if you ignore them. What you need to do is you need to unpack them. You need to unpack them, look at them, put them where they belong, and some of the things belong to carry with me because they're lessons learned. Other things, this is time to put this to bed and to put this in the closet, and I'm done. But you have to examine it. I call it the flat tire effect. That if I don't ask why, every time my tire goes flat, I just put air in it, but I never say to myself, why does it keep going flat?
Yeah.
I'll never find the hole, and what'll happen is it'll just keep getting flat. Every time I put air in it, it works for a little while, then it doesn't. But as soon as I say, why is it going flat? And I find the hole and I can plug that hole, guess what? I don't have that problem anymore.
Yep.
So it's important that we ask why. It's important that we understand what made us who we are.
Absolutely.
You know, besides that victim mentality of I have no control over the past is ridiculous. We're not victims anymore.
Mm-mm.
I can't live in that victim mentality that my past controls who I am now. That's a childish thought that, my parents made me the way I am. That's just the way I am. That's all there is to it. Well, fine. Then reserve yourself to being miserable.
Yeah.
If you want a happy life, you've got to take responsibility and say, now it's my turn to look at all that, put it where it belongs, and decide what I'm going to do with it, and then move on. So please, everybody, I mean, I hope we don't have the people who say, I draw a line and I'll forget everything that happened before that.
Or if
That's
we do have them in here, I hope that they're open-minded to hearing us and we change their mind.
I want you to think about picking up a novel to read a novel, a good mystery, and ripping out all the pages in the first 100 pages of the book, ripping them out, and throwing them away, then picking up the novel from there. It's never going to make the full sense.
Yeah.
Your life story is never going to make sense unless you know all of it. Don't ignore any of it. Don't ignore it. I tried that. with when I separated from my wife, and it was amazing. When she died, I realized how many things I'd ever dealt with because I tried to say, I'm not that person anymore. I'm just going to forget about it. And I had to deal with all that after she passed away. So please, everybody out there, I'm so glad that this is a good conversation for you.
Yeah. I love this. I love this conversation for us right now.
Yeah. And this is what recovery is. Recovery isn't what you see on TV. It's not just sitting in secret rooms in church basements and everybody, hi, my name is Scott and I'm an alcoholic. That's not what recovery is. That's a tool to help us. Recovery is what we do on the outside. Every time we say hello to somebody, every time we do something in our lives, every time we go to the grocery store and we're nice to somebody, that's what recovery is.
Yeah.
So it's all about what we do on the outside. That's just where we get our tools or our energy sometimes. But it's not just sitting in a church basement. I mean, I know some people who make going to meetings their whole recovery.
Yep. Me too.
I don't want to do that.
Me either. You know, meetings gave me the ability to create the life that I have today. You know, and a lot of people ask me, "Oh, you're in recovery, you make meetings still?" I said, "Yes." And then, you know, they'll say to me like, "Is NA your life?" And Narcotics Anonymous is not my life, but recovery is.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And recovery is nothing more. Recovery is nothing more than being your best self.
Yeah.
That's the way I think of it. It's, am I being my best self? While I'm putting alcohol in my body and I'm abusing myself and I'm abusing others and that's not my best self. My recovery is just not being perfect, because my best self will never be perfect, but it'll be doing the best I can every day for
Yep.
myself, for the people I love, and for everybody that I can, everybody that, that's why we do this, is so we can spread message. And plus it's fun. This is fun to do.
This
I
is
mean,
fun to.
you know how many people thought about doing things like this and they never do it? Well, you had talked about it for a long time and you never had a chance. And now you're doing it. What do you think of it?
I love it. I love it. Everybody for a while on my TikTok lives, they would say, "Nicole, you have to do a podcast. Nicole, you have to do a podcast." And I was like, I don't know the first thing. I'm still getting used to TikTok. I don't even know the first thing about the podcast. And then literally it was like God intervened and I met you and you brought up your podcast idea. And I was like, oh, hey, everybody on TikTok tells me I need to have a podcast. I'll do it with you. And now here we are. He said, she said.
Well, I think in the first 2 minutes of our conversation, because you took the training and then I met you one day after that, or, a few days after that. Yeah, I was at the training. And within 2 minutes, I knew that we had this is a good energy for us to do the podcast, and we got the male point of view, the female point of view. I'm a little bit older, you're a little bit younger. We've both been through different areas, and I've got more of the, the alcoholic and the more of the drug. I mean, we cover a lot of bases. And you're not afraid to say what you think, and that's important. That's important. And you never could stop doing that, obviously. You know that, right?
I never want to. Even though sometimes it gets me in trouble, I never want to.
Love you, Nicole. Amazing show, guys. Thank you so much.
You, Nicole. And just so you know, Nicole, if that question was in regards to you, I am that person that you can tell your secrets to.
Yes, not me. Definitely her.
Me.
Definitely her. Hillary saying we have a great energy. Thank you, Hillary. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. Nicole's giving you the heart, so that's a good sign. All right. That's good. LOL, crying. Yeah, not me. Yeah, that's funny. I love dealing with people in groups. That's my thing. I will talk to people one-on-one, but for me, I'm more of give me a group. Like, that's why I still work in treatment centers sometimes. I'll go in and I'll do groups because I just love group energy. I love that. Karen's much better at the one-on-one energy. Because I get a little too hyper for one-on-one. I think I probably scare people because I spent too much time on TV and radio. Okay, Stacy. Oh, here's a big one. I've never been in recovery, but my sister is an addict. Started at age 14 and has continued. She is now 37. Listening to Nicole and her recovery journey has helped me to understand a lot more with addiction. Listening really helps me. Absolutely. If you have somebody that you love that is going through addiction, I mean, you also have things to deal with on your own.
Yeah. Family disease.
Yeah. If somebody you care about is going through this, you certainly want to see them get help, but also make sure that you're not getting dragged down as well. Make sure you take care of you. How important was it for people who were in your life to take care of themselves after you got better?
Yeah, it was very important. And then what I realized is, I love my parents dearly, right? But in the beginning, they were all for it. They were all for knowing that there were certain things that they had to change too, but then eventually that stopped. And I still to this day, I have to remind myself that, they're not the ones with the recovery. I am. But it is 100% a family disease. And I also found in recovery that I did more damage to my family than I probably did myself, because they didn't have the drugs and the alcohol numbing their pain that I was causing.
Yeah.
I caused them pain, and I took a hit of crack and I didn't feel it anymore, but they still did, you know?
Yeah, that's the tough part, is like they get all the pain of addiction without the joy of getting high. And
Yeah.
it was like we would go off and find solace in our numbness.
Yeah.
They didn't have that. They every time we were drunk or every time we were out and about. And I know this, from my own experience and then from dealing with, my kids having their own problems. Um, that as a parent of a child who's going through something like that, you die a little bit inside every time they light that pipe, every time they use that needle, every time they drink that drink. We die a little bit inside because it's like you can't help it. So
Yeah.
we need help as well as family members. And Stacy, I appreciate you sharing that with us, and I hope you find something that works for you. But make sure you do find something that works for you as well. While you're trying to help your sister, that's great, but make sure that you take care of you, because you
Yeah.
can't carry the burden of somebody else's addiction. That's just, you can't do it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we help people with addictions for a living now, Nicole,
Yeah.
you and I, but
Yes.
we can't carry their burdens for them. We can't. We've got to take care of ourselves, or else we'll
Yeah.
never help anybody, right?
Well, what is that saying? You have to make sure your cup is full
Yeah,
in order to pour into somebody else.
exactly. Exactly. And if you just keep draining your cup into somebody else without ever filling it up, pretty soon you're empty and lost too.
Yep.
And we see that quite often, where it's almost like when you look at a family, it's hard to distinguish which one is the addict and which one is the victim in this,
Mm-hmm.
because they're all damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So Karen says you guys are great. Thank you, Karen.
You're great, Pam.
Um, Hillary, watching someone being stuck in their addiction is brutal. I still have a hard time knowing I stuck to my bottom line with my mom. Um, she did. She stuck to a bottom line where she could not allow her mom to be a part of her life, especially with her baby, my granddaughter. And again, we lost Hera 2 years ago now. Um, and it's hard to say that I drew that line, but she had to for herself. She
Yeah.
had to.
And it's
Yeah.
just guilt that you're feeling, and I've heard it so many times. Guilt is one of the most useless feelings that
Yeah.
there probably is, but it's easier said than done to not feel that way. But just keep reminding yourself, Hillary, that you did the right thing for your kids, because the damage that your mom did to you, I'm sure, as a child, if you didn't break the ties and cut that cord, it would have been brought into your family that you have now.
Well said. Absolutely. Stacy, I walked away from an 8-year relationship, a house, because of my sister. She lost custody of her daughter, and I took her in. She is family, and I couldn't say no. She was just a baby. I mean, I'm glad you're taking care of your niece and taking care of that stuff. But again, it's got to be about your life and building your life. You help out where you can. That's where it's really hard, is if you're a family member, it's hard to lead someone in your family into recovery. You need outside help for that because you're too close to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, really important. Speaking of outside help, let's take a moment and let's talk about our sponsors, which are our Addiction Training Center and, of course, Legacy Healing Group. And if you are interested in learning about addiction and learning about how you can be a part of the solution and help people, then give us a call at Addiction Training Center, because we definitely want to help you. We have courses in how to deal with addiction. Being an interventionist, it's a certified course, very affordable, one-day training. And if you can't be there live, it's available online to learn at your own pace. But you can learn a lot about addiction and learn a lot about how to deal with it if it is rearing its head in your community or somewhere else. So please give Karen a call. Karen's been popping in and out today. 786-514-0893. Write that down. That's 786-514-0893. And just let Karen know you caught it here on He Said, She Said, and you would like to get involved and help people, and we can give you many different directions to do that. We also have a first responder program where we help first responders with trauma and addiction and also train them to help each other. So there's a lot we have going on. Please check us out. It's Addiction Training Center. You can check us out at atceducation.com or give Karen a call. But Legacy, our friendship and our friendship with you and Mark and Mike and all the guys at Legacy has been great. You guys do a great job when it comes down to actually treating the addiction, right?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Legacy Healing Center is a behavioral health facility for drugs and alcohol. We currently have 2 locations, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And, you know, I say this a lot when I talk about Legacy, because whether it's in my addiction, the amount of treatment centers I went in and out of, or working in this field, like Legacy is probably the one that if I had to send a family member to or a loved one, without a doubt, it would be Legacy. You know, it's just the environment there is much different than any place there is out there. The people who work there, like Scott said, we have just such an amazing team. We're family, you know, and there's 3 main pillars that come along with Legacy that I just think is so admirable. And it's the motivational enhancement therapy, it's the holistic health and wellness approach, and our recovery action plan. You know, we don't, when it's time for the individual to leave, right? We like to call them our ladies and gentlemen. So when it's time for them to leave, they have a plan in action for when they get out, you know, and we have an amazing alumni team that's going to be with you guys, you know, until the end. And it's truly ladies and gentlemen taking care of ladies and gentlemen. So if you know somebody who is struggling, or if you yourself is struggling, legacyhealingcenter.com, 1-800-LEGACY-5, or reach out to me personally, you know. And if Legacy is not the fit for you, we do have a business development team that will make sure we place whoever it is that is looking for treatment.
Absolutely. And, you know, the same goes with ATC. If you have questions about treatment centers, you know, concerns because you might have special needs, we could also help you in that direction as well. So call either of us. If you give Nicole, shout out to Nicole. It doesn't mean Nicole has to put you at Legacy. If it doesn't fit for you, that won't happen, but they'll find a place for you. And that's one of the things that makes them the good people that they are. So if you do have anybody that needs help, either one of us, we're willing to help. And of course, Nicole and I thank both ATC and Legacy for helping us out and sponsoring this podcast. My mom's giving a shout out to my daughter, saying, "Love you, Hillary. You're an amazing young woman." And I couldn't agree more. My daughter is an amazing young woman, and she has an amazing family now, which now consists of her husband, Adam, and 2 beautiful children, 2 grandchildren of mine, Hazel and Jake. And, you know, Jake's only about 7 weeks old now. But in his second, he was less than 2 weeks old, and he was wearing a Rolling Stones t-shirt and rocking the rock and roll fist in a picture. At less than 2, he's my guy. He's going to be my guy. I'm sorry, Hillary. He's getting a guitar at his first birthday, and you're going to have to deal with it. Nicole, this hour has flown by.
It sure did. It always does.
It really does. It really does. We want to thank you. Okay. So, see, this is what guys do. 6 weeks. If you ask me how old my kids are, I can't tell you. I got 3 of them. How am I supposed to remember 3 numbers?
That's all right.
I can tell you how tall they are. This is how I measure everything.
You were close, though. You weren't that much off. A week off. Not terrible.
And she's cool with the guitar, so that's good. That's good. All right. Geez, until next time, Nicole, this has been great. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and Nicole and I are going to talk about pop-ups. So just be aware. You might get a message on Facebook or in your messenger saying, we're having a pop-up in 1 hour. Make sure you're available and make sure you're there for it. But we'll be back on the 29th, Wednesday the 29th at 7 o'clock for our regular show. But feel free to reach out to us. He Said, She Said podcast on Facebook. You could check us out at our personal pages. You guys know how to find us. Please just reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Stacy saying, thank you, Scott and Nicole. Thank you, Stacy,
Welcome,
for
Stacey.
and Nicole and Sandy and Karen and Hillary and Therese and everybody else tonight who has been sharing with us, and Matt, thank you for the yo. It wouldn't have been the same without it.
Aw.
Any final thoughts, Nicole, on self-worth and life?
Just, even in regards to that, if you have questions on how to get to where Scott and I spoke about tonight, even message us with questions in regards to that. If we need to be the people that you dump a quick secret to for now, or guide you in the direction to somebody that could, let us help you, because you're worth it. At the end of the day, whether you think so or not, I don't even know who's logged in right now, but yet I can tell each individual on here that you guys are worth it. So that's it from me.
I agree with you 1,000%. And the only thing I'll add is that please remember that you're the author of your story. As a child and as we grew, and even in some of our stranger circumstance or painful circumstances, we may have been out of control and felt that we were being victimized. But as you sit here today, everyone, you have the pen, you have the paper. If you don't like where your story is, start writing a new chapter. You could start over anytime you want with a new chapter. And at the end, if you take the responsibility of being the author of your life, you're going to be happy. I promise you. But you have to take that responsibility, and you have to complete the story. Don't leave anything out. Complete the story. You're going to be better. Well, with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us. You have been watching He Said, She Said with Scott and Nicole. We will catch you next time.